You said it's time to make a decision. Does that mean the Minister making a call whether or not unions agree?
Well, unfortunately, the department now resemble a dysfunctional school DEBS committee because there's been no planning, no organisation, and dates are being given out that the government and the minister can't fulfil. In the last hour, she was saying that we should have an announcement by the end of the week, but earlier today we were told that March 1st was the date for a return to schools. That date was given to are retracting from that date. What is very disappointing is that I asked the Minister to have a review of Leaving Cert 2020 because this was predictable that there may be a question mark over this year's Leaving Cert. That review wasn't done, that information isn't to hand, and no recommendations from that review can be used for this process. So I believe now, and the Labour Party believes, that we need to move to a calculated grade system. A calculated grade needs to be offered to every student, and if a student feels that they want to have a written exam at a later date, then that should be facilitated. But nobody can give a cast iron guarantee at this moment in time that written exams will take place because we don't know what will happen to this pandemic in April or May. There could be new variants, there could be new things that we have to deal with. OK,
but the ASCI has set its face against that outcome.
Well, this is what politics is about making decisions. And
so the Minister should make the decision to go ahead with calculated grades, even though the teachers who are going to presumably give those calculated grades say they don't want to cooperate.
Well, there's more than one teacher union involved in the process, and both teacher unions were involved in the process last year. And if we put the student at the centre of this discussion and these decisions, I'm quite sure we'll come to the right decision. Nobody's going to come out of this process feeling that they've won everything that they wanted. But students have lost 11 weeks at the end of last academic year. They've lost a lot of in-class teaching since Christmas, and it can't continue this way. It's important that a decision is made this week. We were hoping for one today. If the Minister is true to her word, we will have one by the end of the week. But when we have that decision, it's quite clear, and in terms of returning to school, that a lot of investment and a lot of research has to be put in to the damage that was caused by school closure and an attempt to redress that damage. Those sort of discussions, unfortunately, and that vision isn't coming from the department at the moment.
At this stage, when do you expect schools to be back?
Well, again, that date, March 1st, was given today, and we welcomed that date when it was presented to us by media because we assumed it had been done by agreement. If that date is, and then the government retracted from that date, we want the return to school to be safe. We want it to happen as soon as possible, but there is no point in having schools open for a few weeks and then to close them again. We need to ensure that when we do reopen, we open safely and we reopen for good. But we can't divorce the school reopening discussion from the wider debate about suppression of the virus, testing and tracing, and the issue around quarantine.
But do you accept the argument that has been made consistently by NPHET that schools of themselves are not a risky environment, are not more risky than other environments? It's the schools were closed to try and stop the movement of 1 million people every day.
I absolutely accept that, and I accept the only reason the schools remained open was because of the work of teachers and SNAs from September until Christmas. But it's clear if we do reopen, we have to keep our schools open because of obviously of the damage that's done to young people. But clearly, if you have a situation where we've had 1,000 deaths in January and we've had more infections in January than the entire year of 2020, that the situation is very different than it was in September and October. But with the right sort of leadership department and the buy-in from all the actors, all the sectors that are working with the department, we can get schools reopened again. But we have to ensure that we can keep them open because it's much easier. It's easy. Well, it's not necessarily easy to open, but when we do open them, we have to ensure that they remain open. And that's a wider discussion about the suppression of the virus and a wider government policy decisions that need to change as well.
OK, Deputy Aodhán Ó Ríordáin, thank you indeed for joining us this evening.
Public health officials have expressed concern